Okay. Okay. That's in committees. Just to explain to members that I guess something passed yesterday in the House procedurally that when the bells start ringing that the committees must suspend. So obviously I imagine the reason was because you know how most of us would go that extra 10 minutes while the bells were ringing, and then I suppose some people had difficulty getting back to the House or whatever. Anyway, we're observing the rules exactly here.
Mr. Chair, just before we start,
yes,
if I could, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we have on today's agenda, and I'm glad to see it, under committee business, the subcommittee's report on the agenda here at number point 2. I don't think it will take long to consider this, so I want to move immediately that we consider committee business quickly before we get to C-298, Mr. Chair. I understand this is a mere procedural motion, so it's not a debatable one. So I think we would be able to dispatch of this very quickly indeed, given our meeting yesterday.
What we would need to do then is normally these would be dealt with in camera, so we would have to clear the room and turn off the TV cameras. So we can do that, or we can just get 298 done and get on.
Mr. Chair, I move the motion that we consider committee business quickly before we go to C-298.
Yes, Mr. Warwa.
Well, Chair, we have an agenda. We have the witnesses here.
Sorry, anyway, I think the members have heard the motion that we reverse the order, and then, of course, we would have to clear the chamber and so on to go in camera.
Shame.
Those in favor? The motion? Opposed? Okay, I guess we're reversing the order, and I would ask we'll suspend for a moment while we clear the House, please. begin then with our clause by clause of 298. Pursuant to order of reference of Wednesday, November the 1st, 2006, Bill C-298, an act to add PFAS to the virtual elimination list under the Canadian Environment Protection Act 1999. And we will then, as pursuant to Standing Order 75-1, Clause 1 will be postponed to the end. I believe, Mr. Warwa, you have a motion regarding Clause 2 and 3.
Thank you, Chair. I would first like to make an opening statement, and then we'll be standing Clause 2 and moving to Clause 3, which is the meat of the change, and then it'd be more logical to approach it that way. So the opening comments is that this bill, and I'd like to begin by thanking Ms. Mina for her efforts and hard work on 298, dealing with perfluorooctane sulfonate, which is known as PFAS. Her bill would require the government to take action on PFAS, a substance that was at one time used in all kinds of products such as stain, grease, and water repellent. The government is in full agreement that action should be taken on PFAS. That's why we moved swiftly last year to put PFAS on the list of toxic substances under CEPA and to publish proposed regulations to prohibit the manufacture, sale, or import of PFAS or PFAS-containing products. We expect to finalize these regulations later this year. There are two notable time-limited exceptions to the prohibition in the government's regulations. And they are a 5-year phase-out period for the use of PFAS in firefighting foams and electroplating process. That's chrome plating process. These are consistent with the most stringent actions taken in other jurisdictions. The government also acknowledges that the weight of evidence suggests that PFAS is a substance that can accumulate in the environment and in animals. And for that reason, we're supportive of Ms. Mina's efforts to add PFAS to the virtual elimination list, the VE list. However, adding a substance to the VE list under CEPA comes with a requirement to develop a kind of regulation called a release limit regulation that will not, in this case, offer additional protection to the environment or human health. The right kind of regulation for a substance like PFAS is a prohibition, turning off the tap, and that's what we're proposing. As we heard in the CEPA review, there are issues with virtual elimination provisions in CEPA. We are proposing the amendments that would allow the government to add PFAS to the VE list without creating the obligation to develop a release limit regulation. Our amendments would ensure that a number of substances related to PFAS would also be addressed. The government proposed prohibition regulation would also apply to PFAS salts. This bill currently does not address those PFAS salts, and so these additional substances would be added and will be in Clause 3. So I'd like to, so we're standing Clause 2 and would like to move to Clause 3 if that's okay.
Are members in favor of going to 3 and then back to 2? Any problems with that? Anybody? Okay. Ms. Mina, welcome to our committee.
Thank you.
If you'd like to make a comment, certainly members would appreciate hearing that.
Thank you very much, and, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking the time to go over this. With me is Mr. Cutter, who has been very helpful in my in the work that I've done. This bill was introduced, as the committee knows, prior to the government's introduction of the prohibition, but nonetheless it was welcomed, and we have had some meetings with the government representative with respect to the kind of amendments that would be acceptable, while at the same time having the bill go through. One of the things that motivated me for putting this forward, Mr. Chair, is that persistence of this particular toxin in the environment and in the food chain and in the environment in bodies. In some recent studies that were done, actually very recent, I think it was 2006, and I believe the Department of Defense was one of them. It showed that, but they were testing all other toxins. They did find, in fact, PFAS in the bodies of Canadians, in particularly higher levels in those of children, which of course is expected given that children's are growing fast and that their cells are also duplicating much faster than those of us who are going in the other direction these days. Nonetheless, I felt that this was extremely important to make sure that this kind of persistent organic pollutant, this persistent toxin, be removed from our environment. This is one of those that, as you know, 3M has stopped producing products with it out of, voluntarily, because it recognized that it was such a potent toxin that it wasn't going to argue and try to delay its own actions. So when the private sector, and that's rare for the private sector, as we all know, to actually act on something as quickly as they did in this case, it has been banned in most other countries in the world, except for some very rare exceptions with respect to some equipment. But apart from that, it has. Now, in addition to this, what I would hope that this committee would also address, in addition to supporting the bill today, would be to recommend for the bill to be for it to be a reference from this committee to the Stockholm Convention on POPs, so that it would be listed on to have it listed on the Stockholm Convention as well, and as one of the persistent organic pollutants, and also to amend the shortfalls within SEPA with respect to this area. I certainly want to simply finish by saying that the kind of cancers that are caused by this bill, this toxin, I don't even want to list to you, but things like pancreas and all kinds of other problems. But it is bioaccumulative. It is one of the worst toxins. There are many others, and hopefully we'll work our way through getting rid of all of them. But I thought I would deal with this one. So, Mr. Chair, I thank you for your patience.
Ms. Minna. So we have stood clause 2, and we're now looking at clause 3. And we have government amendment, page 4. Mr. Warwa.
Thank you. So clause 3 of this bill has a problem. It would require the government to take unnecessary and ineffective regulatory action when effective regulatory action has already been taken, and I pointed that out in my opening. So our proposed amendment would ensure that PFAS can be added to the VE list without creating any obligation for additional release regulations. We agree that adding PFAS to the VE list would have important symbolic value, especially as the world considers what to do with the substance throughout the international process. Our proposed changes would not, however, result in the government being committed to developing an ineffective regulation. A level of quantification is the lowest level a substance can be measured. And as it stands, the LOQs are developed for emissions and are intended to be the ultimate release limits and release limit regulations. So we believe our amendment deals with this, and again, thank Ms. Mina for her work. And so we have our motion. I don't think it's necessary for me to read it out, but I believe it will deal clearly with PFAS in an appropriate manner.
Other members' comments, questions? Mr. McGrath.
I just have a question. From what I understand, a notice has already been published in the Gazette, and it was published on the 2nd of October 2004, so a process was begun. However, there was a long time period between when the notice was actually published and subsequent action, because there were several consultations. Why was there such a long period of time between the publishing of the notice and any decision that PFAS, that is, and why wasn't PFAS included on that list earlier?
I'm not one of the risk assessors. However, Robert Chenier, who was a witness here a couple of weeks ago, is. And I think he's answered this question in saying that there's a lot of developing science. Ms. Mina was just talking about some that was done last year, and we've been an active part of that science. And it is the ongoing research that has led to some time being taken to make this decision.
Mais qu'est-ce qui explique
But why did 2 or 3 years go by before any decision was made on the part of the government? A decision that the parliamentary secretary has proposed, that they move faster. So what took so long? Was it that there was a lack of resources? I just want to understand why there was such a long delay. I realize there was scientific research, but is it also an issue of resources? With the result that PFOS wasn't put on that list earlier?
It's simply a question of wanting to make the right decision as the science evolved.
McGinty. Mr. McGinty?
Yeah, sorry, I was just hoping to hear from Dr. Katera about this proposed amendment. Are we in a position to hear from him? He's an authority as well in the country.
I think the question is, are we going to start calling witnesses to the table? That was a question that was raised. We've had witnesses in for this whole bill.
So we
do have our experts from the department.
Well, maybe the experts from the department could give me some indication of, for example, give us some opposing views to these series of recommendations. What might other parties, for example, NGOs, say about these government amendments here on page 4?
I'm not certain. The committee has looked at virtual elimination, understands that there's some issues with the release limit regulations and the LOQs. The bill as it was originally drafted simply adopted the VE provisions of SEPA as they were, and I think that this is basically a workaround for PFOS as we work out what to do with the VE provisions in the Act in response to your report.
Ms. Minna? Sorry? Did we hear from Ms. Minna?
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
I was just going to clarify with respect to Mr. Cotter. I had invited him to be here with me this morning. I apologize I didn't send his name in advance as someone who would be here as part of my team as opposed to a separate. That just to explain why he was here.
Thank you. Mr. Warwa.
Thank you, Chair. We've had thorough discussions with the sponsor of the bill, Ms. Mina, and also with Mr. Katter. And I believe what's being proposed today is there was some problems with in a practical sense with the original bill, but I think we've come to a position that we do support the principle very much of the efforts of the bill, and we've now tried to clean it up so we have a bill that is constitutional and will deal with PFOS appropriately. As my opening comments were, it's good to have it on the virtual elimination list. It gives a very strong signal, but the real tool is to prohibit PFOS. So we're doing both, having it on VE and prohibit it. And so it's those changes through consultation, I think, make the bill a constitutional bill and a bill that will appropriately deal with PFOS. And I think we met that middle ground.
Ms. Minna.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have discussed this with Mr. Cotter and a couple of others, obviously, the amendments, and they are okay with us. Primarily, we have been discussing, as the member said, back and forth. This does get it on the virtual elimination. As I said earlier in my remarks, I would also like to see a couple of motions from this committee, which would also address the issue of the shortfalls within SEPA, and also to send this, put this on the Stockholm Convention. I think that would take it to that other level. But that, I think, is something that the members would want to do as a separate action, as opposed outside of the bill that's here in front of you today.
Other comments? Any other comments? So on the proposed then amendment, which you have in front of you on page 4. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? I don't believe there are. Shall clause 3 carry as amended? Agreed? Back then to clause 2. And we have government amendment number on page 3. Yes, Mr. Warwick.
Okay, so then I would like to propose G2, which is clause 2. And
Yeah, I believe it is. Yes.
Actually, it's G2. We were just dealing with G3.
This is the package that was handed out to all members, which,
I thought it why you had stood.
well, we,
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. I've got a different number here. So thank you.
okay, so we're on
G3.
G3,
According
page
to your
3.
package. And the government is proposing a change to the definition of the accountable ministers in this act for consistency with the virtual elimination sections of CEPA. In CEPA, it's both the Minister of Environment and the Minister of Health that is accountable for VE list, and so that's the logic for the changes. And with the changes also to the previous clause 2, this now brings in harmony with clause 3. So I'd move those G3.
Thank you, Mr. Warwa. Comments? Any comments on adding of the Minister of Health? Everybody's... Yeah, yes, Mr. Bergeron. Oh, no, sorry, Mr. Collin.
Only one, that if we
So
proceed,
quiet today, I
proceed
forgot
at
your
this
name.
type of pace, we're going to miss lunch, and that's a great misfortune for us all. So I wonder if we can stir. I'm just kidding. There's no comments. The amendments are fine.
Okay, how do I answer that one? Any other? Yes, lunch has arrived, so you're okay. Any other comments? Those in favor of G3, page 3, amendment? Shall clause 2 carry as amended? Agreed? Okay. Now where are we at? So clause 1. And we have government amendment number 2 on page 2.
Again, Chair,
Yes.
the logic there is it deals with PFOS and its salts, so those additional substances. So it expands the bill, which is, I think, a good thing.
Any questions, comments about this amendment? No, we're on 2.
I think he's speaking.
But then he's not talking about salt.
That's one.
About the French translation.
Yeah, we're sorry, Mr. Warwa. I think we've got a number.
Sorry about that.
So we're on 2.
G2.
G2, page 2. Comments about that, Mr. Warwa? Anything
No,
else?
it's a clarification, replacing the French
The French version, yes. Any questions about that? Mr. Bergeron, are you clear on that? It's okay? Any problems? Those in favor of G2? Opposed? Carried. Shall clause 1 carry as amended? Agreed. Now to the title. To G1, page 1.
Repeat myself.
And just repeat yourself.
It just expands to include salt, so a clear title of the intent of the bill.
Any comments on G1, Amendment G1, page 1? Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Shall the title as amended carry? Agreed? Shall the bill as amended carry? Agreed? Shall I report the bill as amended to the House? Shall the committee order a reprint of the bill? Done. What an agreeable bunch, man.
Okay, so we can adjourn.
So, have lunch.